Number 15. The Oklahoma Girl Scout Murders. In the summer of 1977, a serene Girl Scout camp in Oklahoma was transformed into a scene of horror that haunts the state to this day. Camp Scott, nestled in a wooded expanse of Mays County, was a retreat that promised adventure and camaraderie. But the dreams of the campers turned into a nightmare when three young girls, Lori Farmer, 8, Michelle Goosey, 9, and Doris Milner, 10, were brutally murdered on their first night at the camp. The camp, set against the backdrop of dense forests and meandering trails, had been a beloved summer destination since 1928. Operated by the Girl Scouts, it offered a haven for girls to explore, learn, and grow. That June, a bus from Tulsa's Girl Scout headquarters brought over 130 excited campers, including Lori, Michelle, and Doris. These young campers, eager for a summer adventure, couldn't have known the tragedy that awaited them. Lori, Michelle, and Doris had been assigned to be roommates in the same tent. The night of June 12th was stormy, adding to the eerie atmosphere as the girls settled into tent number 7, which was situated at a secluded edge of the camp near the woods. This would be the last time they were seen alive. The following morning, their bodies were discovered around 150 feet from their tent, shocking the camp, the community, and the nation. The brutality of the crime was appalling. The girls had been raped and bludgeoned, their young lives cut short in an act of unspeakable violence. The discovery set off a massive investigation, with authorities scouring the camp and surrounding areas for clues. They pieced together disturbing signs of a premeditated attack, including a note in a ransacked cabin, found several months earlier and dismissed as a hoax, warning of an intention to kill 3 girls. Suspicion soon fell on Gene Leroy Hart, a local man who was a convicted rapist and escapee from a nearby jail. Hart, a member of the Cherokee Nation who had been living in the area, became a prime suspect in the case. The largest manhunt in Oklahoma history ensued, leading to his capture in April 1978. Hart's trial became a focal point of national attention, but despite the circumstantial evidence and allegations, he was acquitted in 1979. The acquittal did little to quell the speculation and theory surrounding the case. Some pointed to other potential suspects, like William Stevens, a convicted rapist seen near the camp around the time of the attacks. Others pondered the possibility of multiple assailants. The mystery deepened in 1989 when DNA testing confirmed Hart was a potential suspect due to certain genetic markers, but the results were not conclusive enough to close the case, as the markers investigators were able to extract could be linked to several thousand other members of the Cherokee Nation. In 2023, Cherokee citizen Faith Phillips, a novelist, screenwriter, and legal expert living in Locust Grove, brought forward compelling new information. Following a tip from a former Mays County sheriff, Phillips learned of a man named Buddy Bristol who allegedly confessed to participating in the murders while in prison. According to Phillips, Bristol claimed that he, along with several others, went to the campsite on that fateful night. He asserted that while he was present, another man, whose identity he revealed, was the one who committed the actual murders. Shockingly, the other individuals named by Bristol are still residing in the community. Phillips revealed that one of the men implicated in Bristol's confession is Native American. Consequently, because the crime took place in Locust Grove on the Cherokee Nation reservation, it is now under the jurisdiction of Cherokee Nation law enforcement and is being investigated by Cherokee marshals. Phillips acknowledged the sensitivity of this case for the victims' families, stating that while she does not wish to speak on their behalf, they too have expressed an interest in continuing to work to uncover the truth. This fresh investigation, spurred by new evidence and a legal shift, offers a renewed chance for justice and closure in a case that has haunted the region for over 4 decades. The murders left an indelible mark on the community and the nation. The camp was permanently closed, and the families of the victims were left with unanswered questions. The Oklahoma Girl Scout murders remain a subject of fascination for crime enthusiasts and a painful, unsolved chapter in Oklahoma's history. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation at 1-800-522-8017 or email tips@osbi.ok.gov. Number 14. Illinois gas attacks. In the town of Mattoon, Illinois, which remained a peaceful enclave in 1944 despite war raging across the globe, a series of bizarre and terrifying events unfolded that remain shrouded in mystery to this day. Dubbed the Mad Gasser of Mattoon, this strange episode has puzzled historians, scientists, and locals for decades, with local tales of the phantom intruder teetering on the edge between fact and fiction. As the battles of World War II rampaged across distant lands, the residents of Mattoon were about to face their own tumult, one that was inexplicable and frightening. It began on a seemingly ordinary night in September 1944, when Aline Carney, a resident of Mattoon, was the first to experience a terrifying ordeal. She reported a sickening, sweet odor in her bedroom, which immediately preceded a feeling of paralysis in her legs and lower body. Alarmed, she called out to her sister, who was staying with her, and the mysterious fumes were dispersed by opening a window. This incident marked the beginning of a series of gas attacks that plagued the town over several weeks. The Mattoon Journal-Gazette, along with other newspapers, reported on these attacks, fueling public fear and intrigue. The assailant, who came to be known as the Mad Gasser, seemed to move through the town like a phantom, leaving a trail of victims who experienced similar symptoms of nausea, paralysis, and in some cases even bleeding. As more reports surfaced, the townspeople and authorities struggled to make sense of the situation. Some victims described seeing a tall, thin man lurking in the darkness, while others reported strange clothes or substances left at the scene. The theories about the identity and motive of the Mad Gasser ranged wildly. Was it a disturbed individual carrying out chemical attacks? A covert military experiment gone awry? Or something even more sinister? The police, under mounting pressure to solve the case, considered various leads, including the possibility that the attacks were related to a local industrial plant using toxic chemicals. However, no concrete evidence could be found to support this or any theory. In the absence of clear answers, fear and paranoia gripped Mattoon. Vigilante groups roamed the streets at night, and residents armed themselves, fearing for their safety. As quickly as they had begun, the attacks ceased. The final count of alleged attacks varied, but it was clear that something unusual had occurred in Mattoon. The cessation of the incidents coincided with a new approach by the police, who announced that they would arrest anyone claiming to be a victim without first undergoing a medical examination. This move led to a sudden end to the reports of gas attacks, raising questions about the true nature of the events. In the aftermath, the Mad Gasser of Mattoon became a subject of debate and speculation. Some experts suggested that the events were a case of mass hysteria, where the power of suggestion and heightened wartime anxieties led to a collective delusion among the townspeople. Others, however, maintained that there was a real perpetrator behind the attacks, perhaps using the cover of war to conduct heinous experiments or to spread fear. Amidst various theories and suspects, one name that has repeatedly emerged to intrigue those committed to solving this mystery is that of Farley Llewellyn, a resident of Mattoon who some believe could have been behind these mysterious incidents. Llewellyn was known in the community as a reclusive and somewhat eccentric individual. His most notable characteristic, particularly relevant to the Mad Gasser case, was his profound interest in chemistry. Reports suggest that Llewellyn had set up a private laboratory where he dabbled in various chemical experiments. This detail is crucial because the nature of the Mad Gasser's attacks, involving some form of noxious gas, points to a perpetrator with a certain level of chemical know-how. Chemistry teacher Scott Maruna, in his exploration of the Mad Gasser mystery, proposed Llewellyn as a potential suspect. Maruna's hypothesis is grounded in the possibility that Llewellyn, perhaps driven by curiosity or other motives, decided to test chemical concoctions outside the confines of his lab. The victims of the supposed gas attacks reported symptoms like nausea, paralysis, and a feeling of suffocation, effects that could plausibly result from exposure to certain chemical agents. However, the theory surrounding Llewellyn as the mad gasser is not without its detractors. For one, many point out there is no concrete evidence directly linking him to the attacks. The connection is primarily circumstantial, hinging on his interest in chemistry and reclusive lifestyle. Furthermore, if Llewellyn were indeed the perpetrator, his motives remain unclear. Was it a series of experiments gone awry, or was there a more sinister intention behind his actions? Another point of contention is the feasibility of Llewellyn carrying out such a series of attacks unnoticed. Mattoon was a small, close-knit community during that period, and the idea of Llewellyn conducting multiple gas attacks without being seen or caught seems implausible, especially given the heightened alertness of the townspeople during the period of panic. Moreover, the theory does not adequately address why the attacks would have suddenly ceased. If Llewellyn were responsible, what prompted him to stop? Was it the growing attention and scrutiny from law enforcement and the media? Or did he achieve whatever objective he might have had? The mystery of the mad gasser of Mattoon remains unsolved. Whether it was a case of mass hysteria, a criminal undertaking, a chemical mishap, or something else entirely, the events of 1944 in this small Illinois town have become a part of local lore and a puzzling chapter in American history. The true nature of what happened in Mattoon may never be fully understood, leaving the mad gasser as another American boogeyman. Number 13. The Setagaya Family Murders. In the quiet Tokyo suburb of Setagaya, the final days of the year 2000 held a chilling narrative that would etch itself into the history of Japan's most baffling unsolved crimes. The Setagaya family murder, a case that would challenge authorities despite the startling array of evidence left behind, left its mark on the area forever. The grim tale began on the night of December 30th. The Miyazawa family, residing in a rapidly changing neighborhood, lived a seemingly normal life. Mikio Miyazawa, 44, worked for a British marketing company. His wife, Yasuko, 41, was a tutor. They had 2 children, Nina, an 8-year-old second grader, and Ray, a 6-year-old kindergartner. The family's life appeared tranquil, but this facade of normality was brutally shattered just before the new year. On that fateful night, after 11 p.m., an unknown intruder silently infiltrated the Miyazawa home. The assailant's entry was believed to be through the second-floor bathroom window, as it was found open with the screen removed. The proximity of this window to Ray's bedroom led investigators to theorize that he was the first victim, strangled to death in his bunk bed. The intruder then unleashed a ferocious attack on the rest of the family. Mikio was found at the bottom of the stairs, having suffered multiple stab wounds from a dangerously sharp sashimi knife. The brutality of the assault was evident. Part of the knife's blade was discovered lodged in his head, indicating it had broken during the attack. Yasuko and Nina were found upstairs, the mother's body draped over her daughter's. Both had been viciously stabbed, the severity of the wounds leaving Yasuko's bones visible. The following morning, Yasuko's mother, who lived next door, discovered the harrowing scene. The killer had cut the phone line at some point surrounding the attack, so when Yasuko's mother was unable to contact her daughter, she entered the house, only to find an entire family brutally murdered. The perpetrator, dubbed the Goldilocks murderer due to his bizarre actions post-murder, exhibited unnerving behavior as he lingered in the home after his crimes. He indulged in ice cream from the Miyazawa's fridge and used their computer around 1:18 a.m. He even left behind an unflushed toilet containing feces that later provided dietary clues as well as DNA. The amount of evidence the killer left was staggering. Blood-stained clothes, including a blood-soaked baseball shirt, a gray crusher hat, a cheap plaid scarf, and a jacket remained in the home. The killer had also abandoned black gloves, 2 black handkerchiefs, one used as a makeshift mask, and a gray and black fanny pack. Shoe prints at the scene revealed he wore size 11 white running shoes, a South Korean brand not sold in Japan. According to evidence, the killer likely remained in the family's home until dawn. Forensic analysis painted a detailed picture of the killer. Approximately 5 feet 6 inches tall, slender, right-handed, with type A blood, and between 15 and 35 years old. He had consumed a meal containing string beans and sesame seeds before the attack. DNA suggested mixed Asian and European ancestry, leaning towards Korean or Chinese heritage. Despite the extensive evidence, including fingerprints, bloodstains, and the unmatched DNA, the killer's identity remained elusive. Theories ranged from a random home invasion to a targeted attack, but no concrete motive was ever established. Close to 250,000 yen was found to be left untouched at the scene, which further deepened the mystery. In the aftermath, the Miyazawa house, initially destined for demolition, became a silent witness to the tragedy. Police investigations have spanned over 2 decades, involving over 280,000 investigators and following more than 16,000 tips. Yet the case remains unsolved. The Miyazawa family murder, with its chilling blend of brutality and mystery, continues to haunt Japan. The killer's identity, motive, and current whereabouts remain unknown, leaving a dark shadow over the quiet suburb of Setagaya. Number 12. The David Animal Killings. In the pastoral landscapes of David, Wales, a chilling mystery unfolds, reminiscent of dark folklore yet deeply rooted in grim reality. The serene Welsh countryside, dotted with farms and usually serene livestock, has become the backdrop for a series of unnerving animal attacks, sparking fears and theories that go beyond the ordinary. As the sun sets over the rolling hills and quiet farms, a sense of unease grows among the local farming community. The eerie silence of the night is broken by the discovery of livestock, mainly sheep, found brutally killed and mutilated. These are not typical predator attacks, which many farmers know and dread. The precision and nature of these killings suggests something more sinister. Farmers, accustomed to the ways of nature and the circle of life, find themselves grappling with the unusual horror of these acts. The animals, integral to their livelihoods and the bucolic harmony of David, are now victims of a seemingly inexplicable cruelty. The police, called to investigate, are equally baffled by the disturbing pattern that emerges. Farmers find the skins of sheep in their fields, with the rest of the animal nowhere in sight. Local authorities and communities are on high alert. David Poas police, delving into the cases, find themselves considering possibilities that stretch the boundaries of typical criminal investigations. Could these acts of violence against animals be a harbinger of something far more menacing? The theory, as unsettling as it is, cannot be ignored. History has shown that some serial killers begin their dark paths with acts of cruelty towards animals. The mystery deepens as each new attack offers few clues and no clear motives. Theories abound in hushed conversations among locals and in the corridors of law enforcement. Some suggest ritualistic activities, others point to a deranged individual taking pleasure in violence, and yet others fear the emergence of a future serial killer. The tranquil Welsh countryside, with its green fields and ancient hills, now harbors a dark secret. The David animal attacks, as they come to be known, are not just isolated incidents of animal cruelty. They are a chilling puzzle that the community and authorities desperately need to solve. With each passing day, the urgency grows to uncover the truth behind these attacks, for the safety of the community, and to bring justice for the innocent animals that have fallen victim to this mystery that baffles investigators. As investigations continue, David remains a landscape where the beauty of nature meets the shadow of an unseen and unsettling presence. The answers, when they come, may reveal more than just the identity of a perpetrator. They may expose the darkest corners of the human psyche. For now, the mystery of the David animal attacks lingers, a haunting reminder of the unknown that lies beneath the surface of rural tranquility. Number 11. The disappearance of Ray Gricar. Center County, Pennsylvania is a relatively rural swath of land that contains at its core the busy main campus of the Pennsylvania State University. On April 15, 2005, in this unlikely setting, a troubling mystery unfolded. Ray Frank Gricar, a respected and experienced district attorney, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Ray Gricar grew up in the city's Collinwood neighborhood. He pursued a legal career. Known for his quiet demeanor, intelligence, and dedication, Gricar eventually settled in State College, Pennsylvania. Here, he embarked on a successful career, being elected as the district attorney of Center County in 1985. Gricar would go on to serve multiple terms before announcing his plan to retire in 2005. Gricar had recently started a relationship with Patty Fornicola, an employee in his office. They shared a home in the charming town of Bellefonte, just a few minutes away from State College. In the days leading up to his disappearance, Gricar's behavior raised no significant concerns, although he did express an interest in learning how to wipe his laptop's hard drive, a request not entirely out of context for a retiring DA. On the fateful day of his disappearance, Gricar took a half-day off and went for a drive along Route 192 towards Lewisburg, a routine he often indulged in to clear his mind. He called Patty at 11:30 a.m., informing her of his whereabouts and letting her know that he wouldn't be home to feed their dog. As the day turned into night, with no sign of Gricar returning, Patty's concern grew. She filed a missing persons report approximately 12 hours after their last conversation. The most significant discovery came the day after his disappearance. Gricar's car was found in a parking lot across from an antique mall in Lewisburg, 45 miles from his Bellefonte home. Inside the locked vehicle was his turned-off cell phone, but missing were his laptop, keys, and wallet. Searches like how to fry a hard drive and water damage to a notebook computer were found on his home computer. Strangely, cigarette ashes and the scent of smoke were found in his car, despite Gricar being a non-smoker. The case took an eerie turn when in July 2005, Gricar's laptop was found in the Susquehanna River, with its hard drive discovered separately. The hard drive was too badly damaged to recover any data, deepening the mystery. Gricar's disappearance bore a haunting resemblance to the fate of his brother Roy, who, shortly after his retirement, went missing and was later found dead in a river, in a case ruled as a suicide. However, there was no evidence suggesting that Ray Gricar had experienced depression or thoughts. Various theories have surfaced over the years. Some speculated that Gricar chose to start a new life elsewhere, possibly influenced by the case of Mel Wiley, a police chief who had disappeared in circumstances that led investigators to believe he had run away to start a new life. Others suggested he might have been a victim of foul play or had secrets that led to his disappearance. The possibility of a connection to the Jerry Sandusky child abuse case was also briefly considered, given Gricar's role as a district attorney, though this theory lacked substantial evidence. Intriguingly, in 2001, an unidentified man arrested in Utah momentarily raised hopes that Gricar had been found. However, this lead turned out to be a false alarm when the man was identified as Philip T. Beavers of New Mexico. Despite an exhaustive investigation, numerous leads, and a significant reward, the fate of Ray Gricar remains a haunting mystery. Though Gricar was declared legally dead in 2011, the case continues to baffle law enforcement and the public alike. The disappearance of Ray Gricar is a grim reminder of how even in a world brimming with surveillance and technology, some mysteries may forever elude explanation. Number 10. The Lead Masks Case. On August 20th, 1966, a young boy flying his kite made a startling discovery on Vintém Hill near Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. There on that hillside were two men, later identified as Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viana, lying dead, dressed in suits and raincoats. What made the scene particularly eerie were the thick lead masks covering their eyes. The police investigation began a day later, though it was hindered by the remote location. Investigators found a series of perplexing items: a cryptic note with instructions about taking capsules at specific times, a water bottle, and two wet towels. The men, identified as electronic technicians from Campos dos Goytacazes, had left their hometown 3 days prior, supposedly to buy equipment for work. Their last sighting was in a bar, where witnesses described the pair as seeming anxious and their behavior as strange. Autopsies provided no clear cause of death, and no signs of violence were reported. Because of a delay in the investigation, reliable toxicology tests could not be conducted. Investigators began to look closer at the note, which referred to the consumption of mysterious capsules, and determined that the handwriting could be matched to neither of the deceased men. Over the years, various theories have emerged. One theory suggests they were involved in an illegal trade of radioactive materials and were murdered, leaving their bodies in a confusing state. Lead can help protect the human body against radiation, although no radiation was detected at the site or on the men's remains. Another theory, popular among UFO enthusiasts, proposes that they were following alien instructions, using the capsules and masks for protection against UFO radiation. However, a more credible explanation came from a friend who revealed that they were part of a scientific spiritualist group. The group, comprised largely of electronics experts, was known for conducting experimental activities. 2 months prior to their deaths, the deceased men had supposedly attempted to contact Mars using a homemade device. Further investigation into Miguel's workshop revealed tools and lead remnants used for making the eye shields. A book found there contained passages about intense luminosity, possibly explaining their reason for utilizing the masks. The prevalent use of psychedelic drugs at the time suggests that they might have died from a drug-induced experience. This theory offers a plausible explanation for their mysterious end on Vintém Hill, though the case remains unsolved and continues to intrigue. Number 9. Voynich Manuscript. The Voynich Manuscript, a secret that has remained unsolved since medieval times, remains one of the most famous and most perplexing puzzles in the history of linguistics and cryptography. Discovered in 1912 by Wilfrid Voynich, a dealer of antique books, this mysterious codex bears his name, but keeps its true origins and authorship veiled in secrecy. Carbon dated to the 15th or 16th century, the manuscript's pages are adorned with intricate illustrations with astronomical, botanical, and anatomical themes, all accompanied by an indecipherable script. This script, now referred to as Voynichese, may be the manuscript's most mysterious feature. Composed of a complex array of characters that mimic the appearance of a written language, it has resisted all efforts at interpretation, fueling speculations that it could be anything, ranging from an elaborate hoax to a lost language of antiquity. Countless hours have been invested by linguists, cryptographers, and codebreakers in effort to unravel the mysteries of Voynichese. Some propose linguistic structures and syntax, while others consider it a fabricated script meant to conceal the true information contained within. Despite extensive endeavors, the script's essence remains an elusive linguistic Gordian knot. The manuscript bursts with detailed depictions of plants, celestial bodies, and female figures, rendered with precision and an apparently robust understanding of the natural world. The botanical section is believed by many to be a compendium of herbal knowledge, detailing the properties and uses of various plants. However, this interpretation remains speculative, as the plants depicted are still unidentifiable. Over time, diverse theories have emerged about the manuscript's purpose and content. Some view it as an alchemical or early scientific text, while others suggest it might be a manual for a forgotten ancient language. More mystical theories propose connections to extraterrestrial knowledge or otherworldly intelligence. Theories about the manuscript range from the plausible to the fantastical, each offering a unique perspective on what this secretive book might represent. One prominent theory suggests that the manuscript contains early medical knowledge. This hypothesis is supported by the detailed botanical and anatomical illustrations, which some believe could represent medicinal plants and studies of human biology. Proponents of this theory argue that the manuscript may have been a compendium of knowledge from an unknown healer or scientist, who took it upon themselves to document herbal remedies and medical practices that were lost to history or even ahead of their time. Another theory posits that the manuscript is alchemical in nature. The strange symbols and diagrams are thought by some to be encoded recipes or processes related to alchemy. The intricate nature of the drawings, particularly those depicting celestial bodies and what could be interpreted as chemical apparatus, lend some credence to this view. This theory is bolstered by the fact that the 15th and 16th centuries were a time when alchemy was widely practiced in Europe. A more esoteric theory suggests that the manuscript could be a work of philosophical or religious symbolism. The bizarre, dreamlike illustrations and the unknown script might represent a form of mystical or even magical knowledge, possibly linked to a secret cult or a mysterious sect. Proponents of this theory often refer to the manuscript's mysterious origins and the possibility that it was meant to be understood only by a select few initiated into its secrets. There are also theories that delve into the realm of the extraordinary. Some suggest that the manuscript could be a documentation of extraterrestrial or otherwise inhuman knowledge. Arguments for this particularly outlandish hypothesis are usually based on the manuscript's inexplicable content, and the argument that some of the plant and astronomical illustrations do not correspond to any known species or celestial configurations on Earth. Lastly, there is the theory that the Voynich manuscript is an elaborate hoax. This perspective argues that the manuscript was created intentionally to baffle and confuse, possibly for financial gain, or as a form of intellectual amusement. Supporters of this theory point to the manuscript's inexplicable script and unidentifiable illustrations as evidence of a deliberate attempt to create an unsolvable mystery. The Voynich manuscript continues to captivate scholars, enthusiasts, and the curious alike. Its enduring mystery stands as a testament to the vast expanse of human knowledge and our relentless quest to unravel historical mysteries. It invites exploration into the unknown and reminds us of the myriad mysteries that still await discovery in our world. This artifact from another time, with its elaborate illustrations and cryptic script, continues to defy understanding. As we leaf through its pages, we are tantalized by the prospect that within its cryptic content lies a message awaiting revelation, a key to a long-lost chapter of human knowledge. Number 8. Mary Celeste. The final voyage of the Mary Celeste, which culminated in one of the most baffling mysteries in maritime history, began with rather mundane intentions. This American brigantine, under the command of Captain Benjamin Briggs, set sail from New York on November 7, 1872, destined for Genoa, Italy. The ship's primary mission was the transportation of a substantial cargo, consisting of 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol. This cargo was intended for industrial use, a common and unremarkable shipment for the time. Captain Briggs was a seasoned and respected mariner, known for his discipline and experience. Accompanying him on this voyage were his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. The crew was composed of 7 carefully selected men, known for their competence and reliability. The journey began as any other, with no indication of the eerie fate that awaited. However, the ordinary nature of this voyage was dramatically upended when, on December 4th, 1872, the Mary Celeste was discovered adrift in the Atlantic Ocean, near the Azores. This discovery was made by a British brigantine vessel known as the Dei Gratia. What the crew of the Dei Gratia found was deeply unsettling and perplexing. The Mary Celeste was not only unmanned, but it also appeared to have been hastily abandoned. Despite not having a soul aboard, the Mary Celeste was largely intact. The ship was still seaworthy, and its cargo of alcohol was almost entirely undisturbed. The ship's lifeboat was missing, suggesting a hurried evacuation. Furthermore, the personal belongings of Captain Briggs, his family, and the crew were found exactly where they would be expected in everyday life, indicating that whatever prompted the vessel's abandonment occurred abruptly, giving no chance for the passengers to grab valuables or sentimental items. The ship's logbook, a crucial piece of any maritime investigation, offered no immediate answers. The last entry was made on November 5th, nearly 10 days before the ship was found. This entry revealed nothing unusual and gave no indication of any impending disaster or reason for abandonment. Food and water sufficient for 6 months were still on board, and there were no signs of violence or struggle. The state of the ship added to the mystery. The sails were partially set, but in poor condition, and there was a significant amount of water in the ship's bottom, although not enough to pose a serious threat. The ship's compass was destroyed, and its sextant and marine chronometer were missing, suggesting that navigation tools might have been hastily gathered in preparation for evacuation. The abandonment of a seaworthy ship, well-stocked and undamaged, in good weather, and without any clear sign of trouble, was unprecedented. The discovery of the Mary Celeste has given rise to a spectrum of theories, each attempting to solve the riddle of its abandonment. One prevalent idea is that the crew and passengers may have succumbed to panic due to a perceived danger. Perhaps a minor explosion or a leak from the alcohol cargo created fumes, sparking fears of an imminent larger explosion. In a state of alarm, they might have hastily embarked on the lifeboat, later tragically succumbing to the vastness of the sea. Another hypothesis considers the impact of natural phenomena, such as a waterspout. This powerful marine tornado could have threatened the crew with the illusion of impending sinking. In response, they might have abandoned the ship, only for it to remain afloat. This scenario could account for the damaged sails and the water found in the ship's hold. Piracy, while a less likely theory, has also been contemplated. It's conceivable that pirates could have invaded the Mary Celeste, leading to the crew's disappearance. However, this theory falters against the reality of the untouched cargo and valuables, as well as the lack of any signs of a violent skirmish on board. Venturing into more extraordinary explanations, some have suggested a seaquake, an underwater earthquake causing a temporary yet terrifying destabilization of the ship. This could have driven the crew off the vessel in fear, but it doesn't quite explain their failure to return once the quake subsided and calm was restored. The possibility of insurance fraud orchestrated by the ship's owners has been proposed as well. Here, the theory goes that the crew was instructed to abandon the ship as part of a scheme to claim insurance money. However, this theory loses credibility under close examination. The ship was not heavily insured, making such a plot financially nonsensical. In the realms of the supernatural and the speculative, theories range from mythical sea monsters to Bermuda Triangle-like phenomena. These notions, while stirring the imagination, lack any substantial evidence and remain firmly in the domain of maritime folklore. Despite thorough investigations and numerous inquiries, the abandonment of the Mary Celeste remains an unsolved mystery. The fate of Captain Briggs, his family, and the crew is lost to history. Number 7. Beale Ciphers. The Beale ciphers may be one of the most tantalizing and enduring mysteries in American history. These ciphers, consisting of a series of 3 encoded messages, allegedly reveal the location of a vast treasure buried in the early 19th century. The story of the Beale ciphers begins with a letter written by a man known only as TJB to his friend, Robert Morris, a Virginia innkeeper. The letter, dated January 5th, 1822, entrusts Morris with an extraordinary secret and a responsibility that would spark decades of treasure hunting and speculation. In the letter, TJB writes to Morris, "You will, doubtless, be surprised at the importance of the trust confided to you, and the confidence reposed in your honor." He explains that he and his associates, who Morris has never met, selected him due to his reputation for sternest integrity, unblemished honor, and business capacity. TJB details an adventurous expedition where he, along with 30 others, set out to Virginia in 1817 to hunt and explore the Western Plains. The letter narrates how this journey unexpectedly led them to discover an abundance of gold and silver in a remote location. TJB describes the discovery. One of the men discovered in a cleft of the rocks something that had the appearance of gold. This finding led to extensive mining, and the party amassed a significant quantity of precious metals. Concerns about the safety of their fortune prompted the decision to transport and conceal it in a secure location near Buford's Tavern in Bedford County, Virginia. TJB recounts, "It was finally decided that it should be sent to Virginia under my charge, and securely buried in a cave near Buford's Tavern." The Beale ciphers, provided to Morris along with the letter, were intended to detail the exact location of the treasure and the names of the party members. However, the key to deciphering these codes was never sent to Morris, leading to centuries of speculation and treasure hunts. Only one of 3 ciphers has been decoded, revealing vague details about the treasure, but not its exact location. The mystery deepens with theories surrounding the authenticity and purpose of the Beale ciphers. Some believe that the ciphers are a complex hoax, a theory supported by the lack of historical evidence available to corroborate the existence of TJB or his adventurous party. Skeptics argue that the story is too fantastical and convenient, a folktale designed to stir the imagination, and perhaps defraud hopeful treasure seekers. Others hold on to the possibility that the ciphers are genuine and that a vast treasure remains hidden, waiting to be discovered. This theory is bolstered by the first deciphered message, which describes the treasure in great detail. "I have deposited in the county of Bedford." The first deposit consisted of 1,014 pounds of gold and 3,812 pounds of silver. Some theories suggest the ciphers could be a form of secret communication, used during a turbulent period in American history, for purposes other than detailing a treasure. Some have even speculated that the ciphers are linked to famous historical figures or events, though these claims lack substantial evidence. Despite extensive efforts by cryptographers and treasure hunters, the Beale ciphers remain largely cryptic, and the treasure, if it exists, remains buried. The allure of the Beale ciphers lies not just in the potential wealth they may point towards, but in the mystery itself. It is a riddle that continues to challenge, fascinate, and frustrate those who encounter it, a mystery steeped in American folklore. Number 6. The Phantom Barber of Pascagoula. In the year 1942, the small town of Pascagoula, Mississippi, found itself in the grip of a peculiar and unsettling mystery. This was the year of the Phantom Barber, who left the town's residents in a state of fear and bewilderment. This unusual intruder's modus operandi was not theft, and did not begin with violence in the traditional sense, but something far stranger. He broke into homes late at night to cut the hair of sleeping women and girls, leaving behind nothing but locks of hair as evidence of his presence. The Phantom Barber's reign of bizarre terror began in earnest in mid-June 1942. In a single week, 3 young girls became his victims. 11-year-old Mary Evelyn Briggs and 12-year-old Edna Marie Heidel were the first to experience this strange intrusion. They were asleep in their room at the Our Lady of Victory's convent when an unknown person entered and snipped off chunks of their hair. The next victim was 6-year-old Carol Petty, who awoke to find a lock of her blonde curls had been cut, with the only clue left behind being a sandy footprint left on an empty bed in her room. The community was understandably alarmed. Police Chief A.W. Ezel was perplexed, admitting he couldn't fathom the motivation behind such odd crimes. In response, the police offered a $300 reward for information leading to the capture of this elusive barber, later increased to $400 with contributions from local businesses and officials. Despite increased patrols and relaxed Army dim-out regulations, the Phantom Barber seemed to move through Pascagoula after dark with ease, his identity and intentions a complete mystery. The situation escalated when Miss R.E. Taylor became the Phantom Barber's next victim. Unlike the young girls, she was an adult woman who reported feeling something pass over her face in the night. She woke up to find her hair cut and suspected that chloroform had been used to keep her unconscious during the act. The community's fear intensified when on the night of June 13th, Mr. and Mrs. Terrell Heidelberg were brutally attacked in their home. They were beaten with an iron pipe while sleeping, a violent escalation that differed from the Phantom Barber's previous haircutting intrusions. This attack led to speculation that the Phantom Barber was evolving into more violent crimes. In late July, the police arrested William A. Dolan, a 57-year-old chemist, in connection with the Phantom Barber crimes. Dolan, who had previously been arrested for trespassing and had disagreements with the Heidelberg family, became a prime suspect. Human hair was reportedly found behind his house, and authorities speculated that his actions were intended to demoralize war workers, possibly due to alleged sympathies towards Germany. Dolan was charged with attempted murder in connection with the attack on the Heidelbergs, but was not charged for the haircutting incidents. His arrest brought temporary relief to the town, but he maintained his innocence. Eventually, he was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison, only to be released 10 years later after a review of his case. The question of whether William A. Dolan was indeed the Phantom Barber of Pascagoula remains unanswered. His association with the case continued, especially as the late-night haircutting incidents ceased after his arrest. Despite this, the Phantom Barber case remains officially unsolved, a peculiar footnote in the history of Pascagoula, leaving behind a legacy of fear, intrigue, and unanswered questions. This bizarre series of events remains a topic of speculation and mystery, a strange chapter in the history of American crime. Number 5. The SS Ourang Medan. In June of 1947, distress signals were sent from the SS Ourang Medan, a Dutch freighter navigating the Marshall Islands in the Pacific Ocean. The chilling message, received nearby and deciphered from Morse code, stated, "SOS from Ourang Medan. We float. All officers, including the captain, died in the chart room and on the bridge, possibly whole crew dead." This was followed by an eerie silence, and then, "I die." This transmission was received by several ships, including the American vessels SS The City of Baltimore and SS Silver Star. Responding to the distress call, the Silver Star altered its course to aid the stricken Ourang Medan. Upon locating the Ourang Medan, the crew of the Silver Star encountered an eerie silence. The ship, adrift and slightly listing, offered no response to the siren or megaphone calls from the other vessel. The rescue team boarded the Ourang Medan, only to be met with a scene of pure horror. The bodies of the crew were scattered across the deck and bridge, each frozen in an expression of terror, with wide eyes and outstretched arms, as though warding off a terrifying force. Even the ship's dog lay dead, caught in a grotesque snarl. Amidst this macabre setting, there were no signs of physical injuries or violence evident on the bodies, intensifying the mystery. As the Silver Star's crew further explored the ship, they noticed one curious absence: the lifeboat, indicating a possible escape attempt. However, before they could delve deeper, they detected the smell of smoke. Realizing the imminent danger, they hastily retreated to their vessel. Moments after their departure, the Ourang Medan was consumed by flames, followed by a massive explosion that ultimately sent it to the ocean's depths. The immediate aftermath of the discovery and the ensuing investigation sparked widespread intrigue and numerous theories. Maritime records were scrutinized for clues about the Ourang Medan's origins, crew, and cargo, but they yielded little concrete information. The investigations faced significant hurdles due to the lack of physical evidence. The ship had sunk, taking with it any tangible clues that could have shed light on the conditions leading to the crew's demise or the subsequent explosion. With the primary evidence lying at the bottom of the sea, investigators were left to rely on second-hand accounts and, of course, the distress message. One compelling theory suggests that the Ourang Medan was carrying hazardous, perhaps even illegal cargo. The speculation revolves around the possibility that chemicals or nerve agents were stored in the ship's hold. It is postulated that water may have breached the cargo area, reacting with the chemicals to release lethal gases. These toxins, spreading rapidly through the ship, could have asphyxiated the crew. This theory also suggests a cause for the reported explosion and subsequent sinking of the vessel. A violent chemical reaction could have been the instigating factor. Another theory to consider is the involvement of external human factors, such as piracy or mutiny. The grim state in which the bodies were discovered, exhibiting expressions of terror and defensive postures, could be indicative of a violent encounter. A pirate attack might explain the absence of survivors and the undisturbed nature of the ship's cargo, suggesting that the attackers fled upon realizing the potentially deadly situation on board. Alternatively, a mutiny could have led to a similarly tragic outcome, but neither theory convincingly explains the lack of evidence of struggle aboard the ship or the eerie calmness that enveloped it upon discovery. A more grounded theory hypothesizes that carbon monoxide poisoning, resulting from a malfunction in the ship's boiler system, may have led to the crew's demise. This scenario could account for the undisturbed positions of the bodies and the lack of visible injuries. However, this fails to account for the expressions of fear etched onto the crew's faces, or the eventual explosion that obliterated the Ourang Medan. In the realm of the paranormal, several theories have emerged. These range from ghostly apparitions to otherworldly forces, with some speculating that alien interference may have caused the deaths of the Ourang Medan's crew. Such explanations, while captivating, are rooted more in folklore and sensationalism than in verifiable facts. They serve to embellish the story, adding layers of intrigue to an already baffling incident. The Cold War era, a period rife with espionage and covert operations, provides a backdrop for another theory. It is speculated that the Ourang Medan might have been engaged in secretive activities, perhaps transporting contraband or classified information. This theory suggests that the crew's death could have been an orchestrated move to protect sensitive data, culminating in the deliberate destruction of the ship to eliminate any trace of the clandestine operation. Despite various theories and extensive investigative efforts, the truth behind the SS Ourang Medan's tragic fate remains mysterious. The lack of concrete evidence, such as official records or the discovery of the ship's wreckage, has led some to question the very existence of the vessel. As such, the story of the Ourang Medan continues to captivate and perplex, a maritime legend that symbolizes the treacherous nature of the sea. Whether a victim of natural forces, human actions, or something beyond our current understanding, the ghost ship of the Ourang Medan sails on in the annals of nautical lore, its secrets yet to be uncovered. Number 4. Shepherd's Monument Inscription. The Shepherd's Monument, located in Staffordshire, England, has captivated the imaginations of codebreakers, historians, and conspiracy theorists for centuries. Constructed between 1748 and 1763, this structure was commissioned by Thomas Anson, a well-to-do British gentleman, and built by the sculptor Peter Shoemaker. The monument is famed not only for its architectural beauty, but for the perplexing inscription that has baffled experts for over 250 years. The front of the Shepherd's Monument features a relief that is an adaptation of Nicolas Poussin's famous painting, Shepherds of Arcadia. The artwork depicts a pastoral scene with a woman and 3 shepherds gathered around a tombstone, on which is written the Latin phrase, et in Arcadia ego, translating to, I am also in Arcadia, or, even in Arcadia, there I am. This phrase has been interpreted as a memento mori, a reminder of the inevitability of death. However, the most intriguing and mysterious aspect of the Shepherd's Monument is the inscription, a sequence of letters reading O-U-O-S-V-A-V-V, flanked by the letters D and M. This cryptic code has resisted interpretation despite the efforts of numerous scholars, including notable figures like Josiah Wedgwood, Charles Darwin, and Charles Dickens. The letters D and M are widely believed to stand for dis manibus, a common dedication to the Roman deities of the underworld, but the meaning of O-U-S-V-A-V-V remains elusive. Theories abound, each more fascinating than the last. One prevalent theory posits that the remaining letters could be an acronym for a Latin phrase, in alignment with dis manibus. However, despite various attempts, no convincing Latin phrase that fits this arrangement of letters has been put forth. This theory aligns with the classical influences evident in the monument's design, but offers little in terms of a conclusive explanation. In 1951, an alternative theory was proposed by Morchard Bishop. This theory suggests a more personal connection. Morchard believed that the letters were an initialism for a sentimental Latin phrase, optime uxoris, optime sororis, vidus amantissimus, vovit virtutibus, or to the best of wives, the best of sisters, a most loving widowed husband dedicates this to your virtues. This interpretation hints at the monument being a loving tribute by Thomas Anson to his deceased wife. But again, conclusive evidence is lacking. Another persuasive theory is the Arcadian Shepherds theory. This draws directly from the Poussin painting that inspired the monument's relief. In the painting, shepherds are pondering a tomb with the inscription Et in Arcadia ego, which reflects the suggestion that death is present even in idyllic settings. Some speculate that the Shugborough inscription could be a continuation of this theme, a cryptic reference to the inevitability of death or an allusion to a hidden tomb or grave, possibly even indicating a location. A more speculative theory connects the inscription to the Knights Templar, a medieval Christian military order. Some enthusiasts of this theory propose that the inscription points to secret knowledge or even treasure passed down by the Templars. The letters are thought to be a code indicating the location of the Holy Grail or another significant religious relic. However, this theory, like others, lacks hard evidence and is often regarded as part of modern myth-making around the Templars. Modern cryptographers and code enthusiasts have also tackled the Shugborough inscription, treating it as a straightforward cipher or coded message. Despite applying various cryptographic techniques, no one has convincingly cracked the code. This ongoing challenge adds a layer of contemporary intrigue to the historical mystery. In addition to the inscription, the monument features 2 head reliefs. One depicts a smiling, bald human figure, while the other shows a horned head resembling Pan, the Greek god of the wild. These figures add another layer of symbolism and mystery to the monument, fueling further speculation about its true purpose and meaning. The Shepherd's Monument continues to be a subject of fascination and debate, whether it holds a profound secret or is simply a testament to the whimsy of its creator. Its code remains one of the most enduring puzzles in history. Number 3. The Crypto Sculpture. Nestled within the grounds of the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, stands a curious sculpture named Kryptos. Created in 1990 by artist Jim Sanborn, this copper sculpture, shaped like a curving S, mimics a piece of paper emerging from a printer. But Kryptos is no ordinary piece of art. It is a cryptographer's dream, a puzzle that has challenged the best minds for over 3 decades. Kryptos is adorned with 4 encrypted messages, separated into distinct sections. The first 3 parts of the code have been solved, but the 4th remains a mystery, unsolved after more than 30 years. Sanborn, who is not a professional cryptographer but a sculptor, took just one brief course in cryptography and managed to create a cipher that even the brightest at the CIA and skilled cryptographers worldwide have yet to fully decode. The first 2 passages of Kryptos were encoded using the Vigenau cipher, a method of encrypting alphabetic text by using a simple form of polyalphabetic substitution. The cipher uses a keyword, and each letter in the message is shifted according to the corresponding letter in the keyword. The strength of this cipher lies in its ability to encode the same letter differently, depending on its position in the message. However, its weakness can be exploited through Kościuszki analysis, which involves guessing the keyword's length and then deciphering each letter of the key. Between subtle shading and the absence of light lies the nuance of occlusion. It was totally invisible. How is that possible? They used the Earth's magnetic field X. The information was gathered and transmitted underground to an unknown location, X. Does Langley know about this? They should. It's buried out there somewhere, X. Who knows the exact location? Only WW, this was his last message, X. 38 degrees, 57 minutes, 6.5 seconds north. 77 degrees, 8 minutes, 44 seconds west, X. Layer 2. The third section of the sculpture uses a different approach, a transposition cipher, where the letters in the message were rearranged. Sanborn's paraphrasing of archaeologist Howard Carter's account of discovering the tomb of the Egyptian pharaoh king Tutankhamun adds a historical touch to this section. Slowly, desperately, slowly the remains of passage debris that encumbered the lower part of the doorway were removed. With trembling hands, I made a tiny breach in the upper left-hand corner, and then widening the hole a little, I inserted the candle and peered in. The hot air escaping from the chamber caused the flame to flicker, but presently details of the room within emerged from the mist. X. Can you see anything? Q. But it is the 4th passage that has baffled everyone. Despite Sanborn giving out 4 clues over the years, the final message remains undeciphered. Cryptographers and enthusiasts alike have speculated over the method and key used by Sanborn, but the brevity of the passage makes it a particularly tough nut to crack. Theories range from simple to complex encryption methods, but the true solution remains elusive. The significance of Kryptos extends beyond its role as a piece of art. It has come to represent the eternal dance between codemakers and code breakers, a testament to the power of secrecy and the human urge to uncover it. Sanborn himself has hinted that if he were to die before the 4th passage is encrypted, the solution would be auctioned, ensuring that the mystery of Kryptos will eventually be revealed, one way or another. As time marches on, Kryptos continues to intrigue and challenge, an unlikely guardian of secrets at the very heart of one of the world's most powerful intelligence agencies. It represents the intersection of art, cryptography, and mystery, a puzzle waiting for its final piece. The question remains, who will be the one to unlock the last secrets of Kryptos? Number 2. The Miracle of Alcides Moreno. On December 7, 2007, in the heart of New York City, an event both tragic and miraculous unfolded. An event that would capture the attention and imagination of many. Alcides Moreno, an Ecuadorian immigrant, and his younger brother Edgar, both window washers, faced a life-altering moment that day. Their work for citywide window cleaning often involved suspending themselves precariously high over Manhattan's bustling streets. This particular morning found them at Solo Tower, a towering 47-story apartment building on the Upper East Side. They stepped onto their 16-foot-long, 3-foot-wide aluminum scaffolding platform, a routine beginning to their day's work. However, what happened next was anything but routine. The scaffolding's anchors, meant to secure the 1,250-pound platform, catastrophically failed. In a terrifying 6 seconds, Alcides and Edgar plummeted 472 feet to the alley below. Edgar, 30 years old, was tragically killed upon impact, his body discovered amidst the mangled wreckage of the scaffolding. The loss was immediate and devastating. But alongside the tragedy, a near impossible twist of fate occurred. Alcides Moreno was found alive. Miraculously, he was sitting up, conscious and breathing amidst the debris. Paramedics, recognizing the severity of his condition, performed a scoop and run to rush him to the nearby New York Presbyterian Hospital, Weill Cornell Medical Center. Alcides' survival was nothing short of miraculous, defying the grim statistics surrounding falls. Globally, falls are a leading cause of accidental deaths, with the United States alone recording over 32,000 fall fatalities annually. They are the second most common cause of accidental deaths worldwide, just behind vehicle accidents. The event reignited discussions about the dangers of falls and the unpredictable nature of such accidents. While falls from great heights are rare, their impact is often devastating, and the Moreno brothers' case was a reminder of this reality. At the hospital, Alcides' condition was critical. He had suffered multiple fractures, internal injuries, and a serious brain injury. The medical team initiated emergency surgery right in the ER, a decision based on the precariousness of his state. Over time, he underwent 15 more surgeries and was in a coma for several weeks. The road to recovery for Alcides was long and fraught with both physical and psychological challenges. The psychological impact of falling, often overlooked, can be as significant as the physical injuries, not to mention the trauma associated with losing his brother in the same incident that almost cost him his life. Alcides' miraculous survival led many to speculate about the factors that may have contributed to it. Some suggested that his position on the scaffolding during the fall might have been a contributing factor. They wonder if he may have been lying flat, which could have distributed the impact more evenly across his body. Others pointed to sheer luck or divine intervention as explanations for the extraordinary outcome. In the aftermath, Alcides received a substantial settlement from the scaffolding company, Tractel, after a court found them negligent in the scaffolding's installation. The amount was undisclosed, but was known to be significant. Number 1. The St. Louis Jane Doe. In the deepest days of winter, in February 1983, a grim discovery was made in an abandoned building in St. Louis, Missouri. 2 men, in search of a pipe with which to repair their vehicle, ventured into the desolate basement of the building. The flicker of a cigarette lighter revealed a horrifying sight: the body of a young African-American girl. She was positioned face down, dressed only in a yellow sweater, her hands bound behind her back with red and white nylon rope. The most disturbing detail, however, was the absence of her head. Initially mistaken for a sex worker or drug addict, it soon became clear that she was just a child, probably not even a teenager given her undeveloped physique. Evidence suggested she had been assaulted. The precision of the cut on her neck indicated the use of a large blade, possibly a carving knife. Despite extensive searches throughout St. Louis and beyond, her head was never found, making identification and determining her cause of death more challenging. Investigators turned to science for answers. Experts from the Missouri Botanical Garden analyzed mold found on her neck wound, coming to the conclusion that she had been deceased for approximately 5 days before being found. Given the nickname Hope, Precious Hope, or Little Jane Doe, law enforcement reached out to every local school district, searching for a missing student matching her description. but to no avail. All signs pointed to the victim being well cared for, with no evidence of malnutrition or prolonged physical abuse. Yet no one came forward to claim her. In December 1983, with no leads and no identification, Hope was buried in a pauper's grave in Washington Park Cemetery. The brief, solemn ceremony was attended by only a few, including the officiant, funeral director, detectives, and the city medical examiner. As months and years passed, the case grew cold, with detectives turning to psychics in desperation. One psychic's prediction led to a fruitless search in the Gulf of Mexico, and another erroneously identified the victim as a Chippewa woman named Shannon Johnson. Even a television appearance with a psychic yielded no new leads. And tragically, one of the most significant pieces of evidence, the victim's yellow sweater, was lost in the mail when an investigator decided to send it to a psychic in Florida. The case drew parallels to the notorious murders committed by convicted child molester and suspected serial killer Vernon Brown. Brown, who had committed similar crimes in the St. Louis area, was initially considered a potential suspect. However, there was insufficient evidence to link him to the murder, and he denied any involvement before his execution in 2005. In 2013, in a renewed effort to solve the mystery, investigators exhumed the body for further forensic analysis. Advanced tests suggested that Hope likely lived in one of several states in the middle of the country, such as Indiana, Illinois, or Missouri, and suffered from spina bifida. She was reburied in the Garden of Innocents at Calvary Cemetery, this time with a larger ceremony with many mourners in attendance. Despite advancements in DNA technology, the St. Louis Jane Doe case remains unsolved. There have been various leads and potential sightings, including a 2023 Reddit post by a user searching for their missing sister, Janetta Brooks, who disappeared under suspicious circumstances that some amateur sleuths believe align with the story of the St. Louis Jane Doe. This new lead, although unconfirmed, has rekindled interest in the case. Anyone with information relating to this case is urged to contact homicidecoldcase@slmpd.org or 314-444-5371. Alternatively, you can remain anonymous by contacting Crime Stoppers at 866-371-8477.